Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 3, Episode 34. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro. With me is the Fat Chocobo.
Paul, hey everybody, how's it going? I also have a plate of pizza here.
You gotta be feeding yourself with that chocobo food. Kupo.
Gyashi greens, baby.
Yeah.
Anyway,
How you doing, Paul? The end of the month. This month is finally here. That's kind
I'm living good right now because we got Armored Core 6. We've got Starfield coming out tonight with just enough time for me to realistically play it for like 4 hours. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. Like, the worst thing they could have done is hit me with that, like, yeah, it comes out at midnight as
Yeah.
everything else happens around here. But they graced me with
Yeah,
blessings. I don't
they've
want to
graced
forget.
us, literally graced us, because by the time that we finish this episode, however long it ends up being, like we'll just be like minutes away to finally being able to play it. But we were blessed with some like timely things for this week, like just for our recording time. So this is one of those fortuitous recording times. But yeah, it's like end of the month is finally here. September is literally just a few hours away. That's kind of crazy. A new month, like the fall season officially begins, Paul, and it technically did last week, but now it feels like it is here now, and it's. I'm getting the warm and fuzzies. It feels good to see like so many big things, like finally to look forward to. Like the world is healing, or it feels like it's healing, even though everything is on fire outside. But yeah, so let's not bury more of the lead, because this is the X Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing. Available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, time to talk about what we've been playing, Paul. Tell me about Armored Core 6, because you just finished it. I only
Yep.
played 5 levels because I was playing and finishing Immortals of Avium. So take it away. Like, what are your thoughts now that you finished before like at least one of the endings, from
So
what I understand?
at a surface level, I am legitimately fighting back and forth between if it's better than Resident Evil 4 for me this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I would consider myself a casual mech fan. I'm not even like
Mm-hmm.
a big dude on that. I got briefly into trying to make Gundam kits. I made like 2 of the tiny ones, and that was it. I was like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, I'm good. I don't even really watch as many of them as many others. I've never finished one.
Uh-huh.
Um, I watched one of the OVAs from the 90s anyway. It, but at the same time, gameplay wise, the movement, the shooting, the customization, the like, not only is it better to do that, you're just recommended by the company itself to like just throw it around, have fun. You don't like this, pick something else. Some things are going to be super powerful. We made it that way. You can have fun with it. The game's super hard anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that they don't nerf what you're capable of because they know what they're going to throw at you is so insane
Mm-hmm.
that it still kind of brings you back to square one in a way. But that's what I love the most about. I mean, it's the same thing we talked about with Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficulty that can either be mitigated or enhanced by what you bring to the table,
How you
essentially.
prepare yourself? Yeah.
Yeah, and the quality of life that past games especially didn't have checkpoints, and you couldn't change anything once you decided to commit to it. So if
Mm-hmm.
you got stuck at the end of a boss, you had 30 minutes to potentially an hour of gameplay you would lose if you had to quit out and restart it.
Mm-hmm.
With this situation, though, you not only get checkpoints at periodic areas throughout the level, but at the boss itself. You don't even have to run to go get it like any other Dark
Mm-hmm.
Souls before it.
It's just
You
right
just
there.
you get the crap kicked out of you, you just immediately load up that assembly button, change up everything about your build if you want to, and then just go back into it. Just keep trying, do that, do whatever, and it's all bite-sized. It's easy to pick up and put down. Some of these missions are crazy epics.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even talk about like spoilers related to some of the things that are going on because I really want some of those moments to live rent free in those people's heads. But I did comment on Duchess's post on Twitter earlier where he they just like kind of mentioned a couple of things by one line from it, and I
Hmm.
immediately like
You
remembered
remember it?
everything about that involving that line, and it's crazy how much character and power you can get when no single face is seen the entire game.
Yeah,
All
just
you hear is
robots and
voices
voiceovers.
and just the mechs. You don't need like you'll have these long shots at just a mech, and you can tell the emotion that person's feeling inside. How do they do that? It's amazing. So I'll also kind of touch on a couple of the things that need some work here and there because the story can be a little wibbly wobbly at times,
Hmm.
especially because it does not give you a very clear moment when you're deciding on something.
Hmm.
I would notice them because somebody told me to look out for it, but it's only
Hmm.
a tiny little icon next to the mission. And if you pick
Hmm.
that without thinking, you are picking a very different pathway.
Yeah.
But if you haven't been paying attention to the conversations, you won't even know why it's a big deal. You'll just know,
Hmm.
like, hey, didn't I work with that guy? Why am I shooting him now? Oh, well. And then by the end of it, you're getting into some really sticky situations because some of the bad endings, the bad ending is tied to the first option sometimes. So a
Hmm.
lot of people who just go by first one that's available,
Hmm.
are not going to notice that until it's too late. And everyone's like, how could you possibly have done this, Raven, or whatever they're saying.
Hmm.
And then when it gets really crazy by the end, it's amazing, but at the same time, everything hurts and it's terrible. And sometimes you're betraying friends because you're a mercenary, you're working both sides of the field at all times. So to wrap up all of that in a nice little bow, Armored Core good, Armored Core hard, very
Hmm.
hard. Um, took me several hours working on it, but at the same time, I've had less difficulty with this game than I have with a lot of others, and you can attest to that.
Hmm.
I've had difficulty with a lot of things,
Yeah.
but the fact that I never stayed stuck on a boss
Yeah,
more
for
than
too
one
long.
day.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't have like those moments where we had before with hard games that you get tilted, you
No,
have to go
no
back.
Metroid Dread
Yeah.
moments, nothing like that.
No
It was
Elden
just
Beast.
no Elden Beast. Everything there made sense, if that makes sense. Even though it
Hmm.
felt like everything was zipping around like a crazy squirrel on crack. Sometimes they were just disappearing in front of you, appearing behind you, saying nothing personal, kid. But I was able to keep up with it somehow because the whole game just kind of teaches you the right moves, to the point where I didn't think I was going to be capable of a lot of it, but by golly, they really taught me everything that I needed to know.
Hmm.
And I'm looking forward to if Starfield ever loosens its grip on me in the coming month. I
Hmm.
would love to continue my New Game Plus because I already got to a point in one of the early missions where there was a in-game decision that wasn't there before, where you
Hmm.
get a radio call halfway through the mission with one of the NPCs from later on in the game calling you up and saying, "Hey, could you like we need your help right now. I will give you double this money if you kill these two people you've been doing this mission with."
Hmm.
And so you can betray that team that you're working with and kill them who are NPCs that stayed with you later on in the game, or you could just continue the story like you did previously. So it's a lot of this like, am I
Hmm.
going to just keep doing what I've been told, or am I going to start taking some action myself earlier on in the story? So it's really interesting to see what opens up for you, not
Hmm.
just new missions, but new decisions, new parts, new weapons. So it's like I have an incentive to continue playing the game because I want to see what is different now.
Yeah.
And so
Very
much
near, very
more,
near Automata, like in that
very
way. Yeah.
much. And it's all of the same kind of like themes and discussions, but way less preachy. It gets out of your way
Hmm.
so much faster. You maybe spend 3 minutes in any conversation with
Hmm.
anyone, and then it's like, all right, get out of that, back in the garage, go have fun. And
Hmm.
nobody wastes your time at all. And I really respect the heck
Yeah.
out of the game for doing that.
Yeah, and I think that you also touched, or you haven't quite mentioned that what makes this as a difficult game different to tackle compared to like maybe a Souls like. This game is not clunky by purpose. This game is
Ooh.
so tight controlling. Like the
So
feeling of
much.
movement of this robot is like it's so pitch perfect for what you need like a mech game to be. Like even in the brief times that I played, like, there's just something about the flow of your robot as you're like surfing around and like floating around like left and right and like engaging your thrusters to fly around briefly until you run out of like gas, and something's like floating, and then mixing as you're surfing around and mixing your whatever gun or rocket combination you have, or even the sword, which by the way, people, that's the trick for that for that boss fight at the very
That
beginning
is
in
the
the
trick
tutorial.
for
Almost
every
everything,
boss
yeah.
fight. I played almost the entire game with that starting sword on my arm because
Do you get a better one?
technically yes and technically no, because it's better at range horizontally because it's a different slash and it does a little bit more damage.
Yeah, but you can
and
have double swords, right? Like because that one's in your left, or you can have like a right hand
you can
sword.
only have a left-hand sword.
Okay.
All of your melee stuff is only your left hand, and I realize why, because there's an ability you unlock that lets you switch what you have on your hand with what is on your left shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take two swords or the pile bunker and whatever, and so you use the sword and then you can switch it out and use another. And technically that takes away something on your left shoulder, but trust me, whatever damage you're doing with your swords is far more than what you could do with anything else on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
It makes more sense in practice, but it's just so amazing what you can actually do with those four options essentially. And yeah, it's just a ton of fun, and I really enjoyed it. I hope that you get to play it at some point soon, but with Starfield coming out,
I got to
knows?
Baltius yesterday. I haven't fought him yet. I stopped
Okay.
there. I stopped there because I was playing other stuff. So I knew I'd like this, and and its structure made it easy for me to just put it down and focus on other stuff that I just personally wanted to play more. But it's like what I played that was there was like, yeah, this is fire. This is quality. Like I like the vibe. I like the style. It's like there's just something about the aesthetic of this game that reminds me so much of Metal Gear in so many play,
Yeah.
like it's so in so many play, in like the industrial side of things.
There's
Yeah,
some armor sets that make you look like Sahelanthropus from the
from
MGS5.
MGS5. There's like I really love like the extended looks of desert that you see. That it reminds me of the aesthetic places from Nier Automata that I really like, because that game is ugly, but it has some moments of like sheer beauty.
It's ugly in
it's
the right ways.
exactly exactly, yeah. But Nier feels like ugly compromised that manages to find beauty sometimes in like fleeting moments. And this one feels like intentionally like post-apocalyptic ugly in a very evocative way. That just that screenshot of you like the massive city that you there's just something so succulent about how about the image composition of this game,
So
that
much.
it's like it's just the power of FromSoft's art design team that's been like just getting better and better and better for them. And just me just enjoying how that game feels to play. And me also in the tutorial, I beat it in one. I beat that stupid ship that everyone started getting stomped on early on, because like I figured out the sword early, because I was like, I like this sword, I wonder if this sword works. And I saw it took chunks. I was like, so I guess that's the trick, huh? Just like sword.
I'm glad that in hindsight, I'm glad they started with that, because it cleared people out so quick so they didn't waste their time. Because let me tell you, every fight after that is so much harder.
Yeah, I've seen videos. I've totally seen the videos. I can't wait to experience the big, massive ship in the desert that is just like of just massive scale. That I thought it was a boss, and then you told.
I thought that that should have been a chapter 1 level, so you should have done it already.
Yeah, they're probably. I'm not close to Baltius from what I understood then, so I'll probably see it then. It's just I can't wait to play more. It's just I was playing other stuff. Like I have this motto that if I have two games that I like, I play the one of lesser quality first before I go into the one with higher quality, because working backwards just doesn't work. With you, I've seen it happen like tenfold. Earlier this year, with like
that luxury of yours, I would try to do that, to like finish everything as quick as I could. I'd spend as much hours as I could the previous day finishing up anything that I was in the middle of. But now it's like I just have to pick the one that's going to give me the most joy, because I have to pick and choose when I can to get things together. And if I don't, then I'm sitting there with all the best games not done at the end of the year.
Yeah,
And
I
who
can, I
wants to
can,
do that?
yeah, I can feel that. It's just more like I'm able to find even gems. I'm on the rough, and that was Immortals of Avian for me. You had played more of it than I did last week, but that's basically all that I
Yeah.
played. Like almost this past week, because yes, some of the criticisms that you level at it, and I saw at the beginning, they hold truth. The uncanny valley shit about like the faces and all of that. That hardly goes away, and it's because like, of the way this game renders the graphics. Like we were talking about, I started sending you some screenshots of the Digital Foundry article that analyzed this game and reviewed this game from a technical perspective. The motion blur that you were mentioning was not motion blur at all. It was image deconstruction, because this game renders at 720p and then upscales through AI to 4K. In still images, it tricks your
It's
eye.
just
It
crazy that we have a modern game for the biggest, strongest consoles that
rendering that
is
low.
technically an indie game,
Yeah, it
but
is.
is rendering that low of a resolution.
Yeah, because of the techniques of of AI upscaling. Because it's like, yeah, if we can like render this natively, but that takes a hit for our frame rate and all that. But if we can like lower the resolution and use this AI upscaling technique so that it looks like a higher resolution for the untrained eye, for the people that are not like perpetually online and look at every single little detail thing of like, what is the resolution of this thing, what is the tiny frame rate difference of the technical people, like I tend to be, because I read that stuff, but like the more layman like you are, that you don't understand like in technicalities. That's why these techniques work, and it's what so many PC games, like, or people that play on PC are doing to achieve both a high visual image and high frame rate. Because if you're trying to brute force a game into render at the highest possible resolution, it comes at the cost of frame rate sometimes. So sometimes it's a balance game, and like what Ascendant Studio, the studio that did this game, which is like was founded and is directed by a former Call of Duty director who worked on Call of Duty Advanced Warfare and World War II, and also directed the original Dead Space back in the day. Was that they fell in love with the idea of like, fast frame rate with everything, but this is also the first Unreal Engine 5 game that basically saw all the tools in the kit. It was like, this is what all these features of this engine can do, and they were like, let's do all of them. Like the whole lumen and nanite thing that we've seen demoed by Epic, like with Fortnite recently, be like, look what normal lighting looks with Fortnite, and look what lumen and nanite does like to the same image, and like it just like boosts lighting, rendering, and all that. This game is the first game to use that technology like in a non-Fortnite way, and to me this is a nice tech demo to see like both the benefits and the deficits of using this technology currently with these consoles. What it does, like for lighting purposes, this game has some phenomenal lighting in so many different places, in its different biomes, especially like when the fireworks are going, when you have all your magic flowing in and out. But it also comes at the cost of like a very soft image, because the trade-off was like, if we want to use all of this, we have to like lower the resolution if we want to keep this high frame rate, because this game doesn't have a 30 frames mode either. It's just the performance mode like baked into the thing. So it was interesting seeing it this way, especially for a relatively indie studio that got published under EA, to be able to try to push towards that many developers are not using this tool quite like this, because it's like, it's nascent technology. It's like even the biggest PCs can't fully render all of this like at the highest possible level unless you have like the 4090s RTX, which is like the super duper expensive graphical cards, just to give an idea like what is required to get like high fidelity with this technology. So this was a good test bed on that, even though it ended up being a mixed bag, because I was like, yeah, everything looks pretty sometimes here, but man, those faces, it's like, it's especially because they're trying to render actual actors. Like the main character is like this actor called Darren Barrett that I've seen in some Netflix movies, and you have Gina Torres, also famous from Firefly, and she's also Ikora Ray from in Destiny, like the black chick. So it's like, I know Gina Torres like in a bunch of sci-fi stuff, so it's like it looks close but not quite, so that pulls you out of the experience. And the story problems remain. To me, is like, there's a cool premise. I have to give them credit for giving a new kind of fantasy world that is not full of just nonsense terminology. Like I remember like Final Fantasy 13 and them throwing all this like weird terms of LC, falsy, and all this bullshit that it just gets so confusing. It's like this is a fantasy world that tries to keep all of that like very minimal, but it's a very box standard story about like two warring factions, and you're a part of a group called the Immortals, and the villain is like a defector from your group and all that, and there's like it's trying to upset the cosmic balance of magic with the world and all that. But it's like I didn't really care much about the story, and it's unfortunate that the game actually forces the story on you. There's no way to skip cutscenes, like, at all. So you have to, like, sit through some of those, and sometimes I would just doze off. But from a moment-to-moment perspective, like, in gameplay, this game is a mix of Doom, a mix of Titanfall, a mix of Wolfenstein, a mix of Singularity, and a mix of Call of Duty in a magic game. And it's basically a shooter where like every weapon has just been like turned into a magic equivalent. I show you I send you a video of like a green, because there's 3 colored magics that you switch with the triangle/Y button, and in the green one it's like basically your machine guns, and I got one that's basically a Gatling gun, and you see like the hand like create the thing. It almost feels like Green Lantern in a way, like when you put your imagination into like what these different magic powers are supposed to be. And when you think about it, kind of like as a first-person shooter, where you sometimes get the Call of Duty style set pieces. I sent you a clip of one of like some flying into a thing like it's wingsuits. It's like it's just such a military shooter in so many ways. But the fact that it's magic is like it's such an interesting, cool premise that like compared to the other myth game that we played this month, Atlas Fallen, that I beat last week, that left absolutely no impression on me whatsoever. This one did. Where despite like all these problems that this game had, it's like this helped me push through, because it's also a story-based first-person shooter at a time where we don't get those. The last time we got one like that was 2017's Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. 2017. Where it has been like all these story shooters. It's like since then it's just been either battle royales, looter shooters, the occasional Call of Duty campaign. So that felt like it scratched that itch, because I was like, oh man, it's like I had missed the kind of meaty story-based first-person shooter that's just this. So that helped it a lot, and I kind of said it in our chat with our buddy Sebastian, who is actually flying to PAX West as we're speaking. This feels like my 2023 Days Gone, a game that's like in the 70s. I know it's not like the greatest thing, but it kept me glued in. It's like all I wanted to keep playing. It was like even with its problems, I saw the promise, and me specifically, that I yearn for newer ideas, newer IP, at a time where I'm like feeling very jaded about like just sequels. That helped push it, and I hope that it doesn't get too hurt by the fact that it released this month. July was the perfect time for this game, I tell you. It sucks that the game wasn't ready, and they had to like push it. To give credit, it's like this game was fairly polished, like in spite of like its things that were not like high quality. It's like this game never crashed on me. It was like it ran well most of the time. I had just a few moments of like tiny slowdown, but it was like fleeting. And overall, it was like I really enjoyed Immortals of Avium. It's like if this had come out last year, it would have made my top 10. I tell you, like right now we're so full of such amazing bangers this year that games that are like the goods is like, yeah, you're there, and I'm glad I played you and glad I enjoyed you. It's like your premise was the thing that helped me push through. Like out of the 3, kind of like I don't even want to call Remnant 2 a mid game. It's just that to me it falls under that because like my opinion soured so hard after the final boss, but I really enjoyed that game a lot. It's like this has been the one that I enjoy out of the 3 games we play that I played post Final Fantasy 16. It filled the spot. I always knew Immortals of Avium was gonna be like the transition game for me. Like I knew it was like, as we're waiting for the big fall to start, this feels like the perfect palate cleanser, and it still is. And I hope eventually you get to see it, because there's just something to it. But I just don't know like if you still have the stomach for long first-person shooter campaigns. So that was kind of like what I was wondering. So I do.
I think it's gonna have to be something that either, unless we get something that really drops off for me later on this year, or next year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm gonna want to go back to it with everything else that's been coming out.
Yeah, but look how quickly you just jumped into Armored Core 6. So it's like, and I know many people did too, but I know many people that dropped off Armored Core 6 also because of the difficulty. So it at least Immortal, if it's not one of like the big ticket items for this year, it's still there. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that I finished it. I've been like, at least for the games that we've been buying this year, I feel very proud of actually. We wasted so much money last year post Elden Ring with so many games that we didn't finish. Yeah. So, and also I think like Elden Ring, it's just so hard to like after that everything just felt like such a step down. So and that's how I like the Dead Island 2s, the Strange. Even though I finished Stranger of Paradise, just didn't finish it. The Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, the Ghostwire Tokyo's, the Lego Star Wars. Those were all the games that we kind of got post Elden Ring. It's just that it was the Elden Ring postpartum depression was like too real. But this one has been different. I feel like the big games have hit at the right time. That everything doesn't feel like too much of a steep decline from like playing such a big banger, and we just been getting so many great games. Like, God, 2023 is such a great year. I tell you, such a great year. I'm committing Paul to continuing Final Fantasy. Like, I'm playing Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. I've slightly turned a corner of this game because I was not liking it too much. I understood why people were not big on Final Fantasy VIII. It's just so freaking different from what came before. It's like the way you level up, the way like you do customization for your characters, all around this junction system that feels like I'm playing an Excel spreadsheet game where they tell me about all these percentages about like trying to mix like this GFs, which are basically the summons, and how you get magic and how you acquire magic in this game is that sometimes you find spots in the world where you get a limited amount. Here's what's so funny, like Final Fantasy 15 uses the same system with magic, like that you absorb things from the world and you have like limited amounts of that, and then you have to like reabsorb it. In this game you have to absorb it sometimes from like the enemies, and it's just like it feels like it's adding extra steps and annoyances to something that was so simple in just Final Fantasy 7. That I'm kind of glad that at least in this remaster form it still has Final Fantasy 7's quality of life cheats, like 3 times speed, infinite limit breaks, no turn off like random encounters. Just being able to have all the limit breaks constantly at least helps circumvent the fact that I don't want to keep using magic a lot, because then it means that I have to be drawing it from enemies. And then at the very least the story, it's definitely, this was Persona before Persona was a thing. You're in school, you're having school drama, your teacher is into you. It's even though the teacher is technically just a year or two older than you, and then she just like takes you like, oh, let's go to this place together, like to look at the moon, and she starts waxing poetic about her problems in her life, and your character is just like ignoring her. Like it was like such a like you might as well talk to a wall. I don't want to deal with this crap. Like the main character is so weird, Squall. He's such an edge boy that is like doesn't want anything to do with anyone. There's fun bits to his personality a little bit. There's like this. How much did you play of 8? Do you ever get to the dancing?
If I didn't, I was really close to it.
Okay.
But I was definitely still in that like prologue student section.
Yeah, there's like this after you get like promoted to be like a soldier, they go to like a party, and there's like this chick that turns out to be like the love interest like throughout the whole Princess Rihanna, that takes him to dance like at this dance party. And it was interesting seeing him that way, because I was like, oh, I see a little bit of some personality to you, because you feel like a more aloof Cloud, because Cloud early in the Final Fantasy VII is such an asshole. So this felt like it was like building more towards that kind of like that stereotype. So I was like, oh man, it's like, I don't know, like an unlikable main protagonist can sometimes dampen your enthusiasm to keep playing. But I then got into like a weird flashback where you're playing like as a different character that looks a lot like your main character, and it's raising some questions. And now I'm like, yep, I'm gonna continue seeing it through. It's like I played all of these right now. Like I definitely want to see why this one is one of the more divisive ones, because there's people that absolutely love this game, and there's people that absolutely abhor this game. It's like there is no middle ground. It's like it's super extreme. It is the Last Jedi of Final Fantasy. And it's so funny because it's the eighth one.
Yeah.
So
It's very ironic, frankly.
yeah.
It's really interesting because, I mean, we talked about the junction system and all that, and just how weird it can be, but
Yeah.
how interesting it was for its time.
Hmm.
Because, as we had talked about, it's now been done way better in other ways,
Yeah.
but it's just unique. And I think that's one reason why a lot of people really vibe with it.
Yeah.
They
It's
vibe
very
also with
paper.
it.
It's very paper top RPG because it's so stat
Mm.
driven. It's like there's just so much about like the percentages that mixing this and this can give to your character and how you can build every specific character that way and all that. So it's like it feels like a lot. The thing is that how they explain this to you, it's so boring because so much text. For then at the end to drop a but you can automize all of this. That I feel it's absolutely a quality of life from the remaster because it's like you don't explain me all of this just to throw like, but you can just put auto. So I'm like, that I'm gonna do that. So it's definitely right now from the ones that I play, like going back, it's so far my least favorite. But we'll see. Like I know Clive actor Ben Starr absolutely loves this game. So it's so funny. He's like he's a big proponent of 8. Like 8 is just weird that way. But I've heard 9 is the beloved one from like that trio of PS1 ones.
That's like the true underrated underdog, as people call it. And I've played none of it. I have no idea what happens in it. I just know that
I have no
guy
I have no
short as a
visual.
tail.
Yeah, and I have no visual like I don't have visual framing of what that game even looks like. So it's like but I have it installed. 9 and 10 I'm so curious about because if you go to especially with 10, if you look at if it's websites rankings of Final Fantasy games, which game is always near the top? 10. Which game in non-critical circles I hear a lot of people talk shit about? 10. So it's like it's so fun. It's so fun. It's like I see like ranked so high, and then I hear so much hatred towards it in some specific ways that it's another one that I really want to see because I do have frame of reference for 10. I played it briefly when I downloaded when I had just got PS Extra that's how I got all these Final Fantasy games. And we're gonna talk about PS Plus later today for sure. And I played it briefly, and I remember I actually talked with Duchess when we were playing Destiny 2, which was the other game that I've been playing this past week. I explained to him kind of like my weird story of how I got into like Final Fantasy or like me and my story with turn-based. Like, do you know that the last is my turn-based like history went like this? After I finished playing Pokemon Sapphire on GBA, I didn't play a single turn-based game until Final Fantasy 13. I had that big a gap.
Man.
Yeah, and
that doesn't fully surprise me because I don't know if I could tell you besides other Pokemon games. I think the only other turn-based RPG might have been The Lord of the Rings: The Third Age for the PS2.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, and that was
really good.
It was around the time of Sapphire. It came out around the time of Sapphire. I played that before Sapphire, and no, actually, because I was gonna say Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door in GameCube was also turn-based thing, but that's different because it's like turn-based with a little bit of like action in it, where like you just an attack, but then you have to like time like a button press, which Sea of Stars in the brief time that I play has Paper Mario in it a little bit.
And I was gonna even say like the Superstar Saga from the GBA.
It has also that same thing. Yeah, same thing.
Like,
I
love that. It's
yeah, because it's like it feels active.
Cool.
Exactly, turn-based but fully active. It's not just you select the command and just wait for things to happen, which was like my problem early on with Final Fantasy turn-based. That now I've turned around to it, but it just turned out that I needed to play the sprite-based ones. Because turn-based and sprite are like peanut butter and jelly. That it like those turn-based combat works so well with that aesthetic. It's when you start moving more towards 3D that you have to get more used to that. And with Final Fantasy 7, it only worked because I was speeding up the animations with the 3 times speedometer. So it was so funny. Like, do you remember when I went on my FIFA rant back in the last year? Why I got Final Fantasy 13? It was the one moment where my gamer friends that were all about that FIFA or the whatever combination of Need for Speed, Call of Duty, and Assassin's Creed, like those kind of like traditional games that they were stick with those. Final Fantasy 13 was the one that all of them were gonna get, and I wasn't even interested in that. And I got it because they got it. Because I was like, so this is a rare game that they are actually getting. I've heard of Final Fantasy. I know Final Fantasy VII. I had a friend stupidly tell me Final Fantasy VII is the first Final Fantasy, and I'm like, but it has a 7 in the title. So he had no acknowledgement of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So it was just so, the brain rot was so funny. Just thinking about that of people that just don't know. It was the first one that came to PlayStation. That was true. But it was not the first Final Fantasy. There's the reason we had a number there. I knew of those. I remember seeing that same friend play a boss fight from 10. I was kind of circling back to that I explained to Duchess, and I remember telling her, yeah, I saw my friend playing this boss fight in this airship in 10, and he was like getting stomped, and he was like, oh yeah, that was the end of the game. I was like, oh cool, so I got to see that, and I did see beats. So that's like all my frame of reference that I have. But 13 was my first Final Fantasy, and going from your last game was Sapphire in turn-based to that one with an aesthetic that looked like could be an action game, healed me to my core. That's why I hated that game back then. That I feel like if I go to it back now, I will love it. Because now, like, turn-based has re-entered my vernacular now. Like, I accept turn-based for what it is. I enjoy turn-based for what it is. So it's just so funny. Your brain can really change things. So yeah, can't wait to play more of Final Fantasy. Like, I'm afraid of 12 because I heard that game is super long. Also, so, but I want to see it. Like, I really want to see them. Like, I really want to see all of them.
12 is weird because I really wanted to play it at one point, and then I listened to enough people that liked it to decide that I wasn't gonna like it.
It's so funny. You enjoy 14, you like 12 because 12 is very MMO-ish, even though it's a single player game. So
I think I would, and like, it's weird because in theory I should like it more now than I ever would have, but on the other hand, I don't want to go back and play that. I want to play modern stuff now.
Yeah, you want to keep moving forward. I have 2 feet in both sides. Like, I have feet in the modern area and in older stuff. But I tell you, it's like Final Fantasy 16, 4, 6, and 7. Just this year, I beat them. They live rent free in my mind, more than any other game that I played this year. It's like it's so funny to think like the lasting power those games have had with me. So it's like I now feel like I can say that I'm a Final Fantasy fan, not a poster that only had finished 2007 Remake and 15. So it feels good. Like, it feels good to like be into, and I kind of want to ride the wave because I didn't even put in this in our list. Like, I tried Sea of Stars because it came out on Tuesday. I just wanted to see it, try it a little bit. I was like, this game's charm is off the roof. This is beautiful pixel art and like modern, but like so perfectly pixel art. The combat is so interesting how they frame it. Like, I really love that this game actually manages to make sense of combat turn-based, that you're in it and then like the levels are like so properly designed that a turn-based thing happens, and unlike like so many turn-based things that have to take you to like a different environment to have the combat happen before you just go back to like your normal world. It feels so thoughtful that way, and I do enjoy its Paper Mario style and Superstar Saga kind of like interactions you can have with some of its combat. But I had that moment where I was like, oh yeah, turn-based. I already committed to Final Fantasy, so I'm gonna commit to that. So, but what I saw was like, yeah, this is so well done, and maybe like I'll have it there. It's such a small install. I'll keep it installed because I really did enjoy like how it looked. I enjoyed the vibe it had, and especially I've heard that it's not a grindy RPG, unlike Final Fantasy that eventually you have to grind to like just to keep up. So
that's good.
So yeah, so definitely that's all that I played. But a big game is entering the rotation in literally 3 hours. 2 actually. In literally 2 hours. So we're gonna talk about said game because its review embargo lifted today. So press X.
Or some news.
Six stories this week. Story number 1. Starfield review roundup. The review embargo of the highly anticipated Xbox PC exclusive from Bethesda Game Studios and the studio's first official game since 2015's Fallout 4 lifted today in the eve of the game's early access release later today. Averaging an 87/88 on both Metacritic and OpenCritic after 51 and 97 recorded reviews for each, it lands Starfield among some of the better reviewed, quote, notable big games of the year, like Hi-Fi Rush, which has both an 87 and an 89, Pikmin 4, which has the same score, 87-88, Final Fantasy 16, also the same score, 87-88, Diablo 4, slightly lower in Metacritic, but same score in OpenCritic, 86-88. And it's slightly higher than a game like Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon that has an 86 and an 85, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which has an 85 and an 84, and Hogwarts Legacy, which has an 84 and an 84. But the game is behind games like Dead Space, which has both 89s. It has Street Fighter 6, which has both 92s. Resident Evil 4, which has a 93 and 92. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom with both 96s, and Baldur's Gate 3 with both 96s. Here is the... What do you think of Orlando quickly before I read the excerpts?
About these numbers, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, in comparison to everything
honestly,
else.
I think it's higher than I expected, but I'm glad it's this high at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I was expecting a lot of like 70s and 75s and that kind of like zone.
Excerpts coming. So in the high end, let's start with some of the excerpts. So BGC Video Games Chronicle gave it a 5 out of 5 and said, and reviewer Jordan Midler said, Starfield is the ultimate Bethesda game. It takes what people loved about Fallout and Skyrim and casts it across an enormous galaxy filled with captivating characters. The Washington Post Gene Park gave it a 4 out of 4 and said, a Bethesda game with all of its coding talent and Microsoft money would forego all pomp and circumstance just to give me the agency to drag my lover across the galaxy to the most important discovery in human history just so he could make me laugh and give me food. The technology may fail, but the human experience is a messy, impetuous thing remains. Because of that, Starfield makes the right sacrifices. Forbes' Paul Tassi gives it a 9.5 out of 10, and he says, I really do love this game. Yes, Bethesda doesn't match some of its peers in many places, but in parts that's because it's trying to do everything all at once. But if you wanted a giant Bethesda RPG set in space with better combat and a whole lot of time to level and build things and explore and find secrets, yeah, this is it. They did it. Enjoy. Now we go into like the big three when you think of like the sides, and here is where like it's interesting seeing the Metacritic based and where the scores landed here. Game Informer's editor-in-chief Matt Miller gave this game an 8.5 out of 10, which is the same score that Final Fantasy 16 got in that side, by the way. And he says, it took me a long time to fall in love with Starfield, and even after I did, certain aspects didn't work for me. But the things I didn't enjoy are vastly outweighed by my enthusiasm for this new, original science fiction universe, the breadth of its adventures, and the appeal of its many interwoven stories. Go in with the expectation that it will take some time to find your footing in such a vast gameplay space, and there's a universe well worth discovering here. IGN gave it a 7 out of 10, and the review editor Dan Stapleton wrote, it's never a great sign when someone recommends a game on the grounds that it gets good after more than a dozen hours, but that's very much the kind of game Starfield is, and I do recommend it. There are a lot of forces working against it, and the combination of disjointed space travel, non-existent maps, aggravating inventory management, and a slow rollout of essential abilities very nearly did it in. It was the joys piloting a custom spaceship into and out of all sorts of morally ambiguous situations in a rich sci-fi universe that eventually pulled it out of a nosedive. I'm glad that I powered through the early hours, because its interstellar mystery story pays off, and, once the ball got rolling, combat on foot and in space gradually became good enough that its momentum carried me into New Game Plus after I finished the main story after around 60 hours. Like Skyrim and Fallout 4 before it, there's still an immense amount of quality role-playing quests and interesting NPCs out there, waiting to be stumbled across, and the pull to seek it out is strong. And then GameSpot also gave it a 7 out of 10, and reviewer Michael Hyham said, when you strip Starfield down to its essentials, it relies on a tried and true but well-tread formula, while missing some of the depth of the games that came before it. Starfield is a game more concerned with quantity than quality, and leaves experience at the surface level. You read those 3 reviews, and you're like, oh, but then you see that it got a lot of praise high up somewhere else, and we got a very divisive game in our hands, I tell you.
It sounds like it, but I kind of am glad for that, both because of how divisive it is, but for once, I seem to be erring on the side of this sounds like exactly what I've been looking for, that I'm like, I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care about any of the issues. It doesn't have to be perfect. I walk around and just smile stupidly when I was playing my broken Fallout 4.
Uh-huh.
Like even with the mods, it's like still super goofy. Everybody's walking around all janky. I mean, you had that one viral Twitter video of like NPCs in real life, and it's like these guys just
Uh-huh.
like talking like robots and
Yeah.
pushing each other out of the way and
the
like
the
knocking
return of
item.
the Assassin's Creed Unity faceless meme.
Yeah.
These-
But at the same time, it's like there's a part of it that's like not, it's not supposed to be this big prestigious moment. I think about Skyrim and how just I never really felt like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. But at the same time, it's so nice at
Mhm.
every moment, even when things glitch around, the items jump around and hit you for 2 damage.
I will say, back in 2011, people were saying that about Skyrim. This is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life, and is the reason why that game has stood the test of time a lot. The thing is that
Maybe I didn't speak right with that one. I should have clarified. Like, it doesn't have the crazy, cultivated, I think, words behind it. It really gives you a setup and then lets you do things, so you can like user created moments rather than like, look at this awesome set piece that you're just like being guided through exactly right.
That's all, and that's always been their games, and that's the thing. Like, the thing with especially reading some of these things, this sounds like a Bethesda game through and through. Like that Paul Tassi review, like absolutely nails it. It's like, if you wanted a giant Bethesda RPG set in space with better combat, a whole lot of time to attempt to level and build things and explore and find secrets, yeah, this is it. So it's been that. This in aggregation total scored the exact same as Fallout 4. That to me, especially after 80, after 80 years, especially with Fallout 76 happening in between there, that completely destroyed a studio's reputation despite them not making that game. They just fell on the sword for that game because their last game was Fallout 4. In fact, they've been working on this game before Fallout 4 even shipped. That you read the Todd Howard memo that I sent you, that he sent, it was like a big letter he sent to developers.
Yeah, I read it.
How like he had the concept for this game all the way back in 2013. How it's been like such a labor of love for them. The fact that it scores the same, it being a new IP, like with heightened expectations and all of that, and hearing that it's actually more polished than usual for them, that to me it's a big win. And to me, it's like the only ones that should be disappointed with what it scored is the Xbots that put all their personality on this thing and saying that this thing was gonna be the game of the generation and blah 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 blah. Definitely didn't play out with the reviews, so they took a big L on that. But it's still a really great score, like it really is. Unless for those people that decided to that so many, like for example, if I'm not being a PlayStation fan or all that, but all the people that made fun of so many PlayStation games last year scoring in the 88s or 87s and all of that, and saying that thing was bad, is like, if they were one of those like trying to make fun of that, and now their game gets that, it's like, yeah, take your L. But it's like a high 80s is great. This puts it like in good company. Look how many great games has come out this year. It's sad that it's not gonna like fight against Tears of the Kingdom like in the high reviews and all of that. Yeah. Maybe that's like where some people were like doing that. But here's the thing, Paul, is like, this is just like what some people think. What is my favorite game this year? Final Fantasy 16 and 87, 88. Like, these scores are just like what people are saying. At the end of the day, it's like, what you think. This may be your favorite game ever for all you know. It's like, games speak differently for so many people. So unless you put so much stock on like what a game scores and all that, and that's why like those console trivia lists, which I tell you, is like, this week has been so damn annoying, so stupidly annoying that it was like the discourse around this thing, like leading into the reviews, all the people trying to find the stupidest things to like complete, like the out of bounds things, the loading in and out of like the planets and all of that. It's just like because there's been brain rot everywhere, from like the people that made this game their own personality, the people that are from the other side that are not getting this game because they don't want to like invest in another console, and it's just been like so damn like toxic and annoying. And I'm like, it feels good that we don't play that game. We have our preference. Like, if this game was coming to PlayStation, I was gonna play it there because I personally like trophies. I like that ecosystem of games. But we recognize if a game is worth it, we're gonna go look for that game regardless of the system it launches. And that's been so great. That's what's been so great because like it's opened us our doors to all these so many awesome games that have come out, and there's still to come. That's what's so fun. Remember, Starfield is just the opening salvo of this fall. There's still so many other games that are coming out this year. Like after this, like Spider-Man was obviously the big ticket item. Like in like 49 days, not because it was 50 days yesterday. The Phantom Liberty expansion for Cyberpunk is looking mighty promising. Alan Wake 2, I keep hearing it just keeps looking so phenomenal. And plus, there's so much things that we're gonna be like. September's finally gonna be the month where something's gotta give. Like, there's so many games coming out in September that we're just not gonna play.
There's no way.
The Lies of P, the Mortal Kombat 1s, the Eternites, the Payday 3s, like all of that is that month. So, I will say this: I wonder how much if I'll be able to like. Many people have said the early hours of this thing are really rough. Like really rough. I sent you the screenshot that when Gene Park was like, let me show you a little bit of like the writing process of writing reviews. This was my headline when I was in the early hours of this game, and his headline was like,
gonna tear it apart.
Yeah, he was gonna tear apart. His headline was like, Starfield is a waste of time and space. That's what like that was his headline. And
I
then
gotta
look
say,
where
though, that was a really good title.
Yeah, no, he that was gonna be like such a clickbait. Like it was gonna bring many. But again, like he turned a corner around. He gave it the highest score, possible that his publication gives him. So it's like, we'll see where it lands for us. I'm still like, this was our number one most anticipated game for the fall. Even with the scores, I said that I only wanted this to be good, like at least great. So I think this at least clears that. It's definitely not gonna be like in Game of the Year conversation just based on what I've been hearing. And again, who cares? Like at the end of the day, who the fuck cares about that?
Ourselves, it's after a while, it's like, what even matters beyond that outside of like the review is just to give you enough context to decide to buy it yourself and then make your own opinion, not to just hate everyone all the time for no reason.
Exactly. And again, it's like and it kind of like how bullshit reviews can be, like especially for someone's own personal thing. Like, look what happened to me with God of War Ragnarok this year. Like a 94 meta open created game, a game that initially I said was my favorite from last year, and this year I can't even dare like think about it and not feel like some sort of disgust towards like maybe I didn't love it quite as much as I wanted it to. And that game obviously cleared a lot of individual things in Game of the Year and all of that. And it was the big competition towards Elden Ring. But it was like, it was a fleeting point in time. And now it doesn't like, do you think about that game? I don't. Like, with everything else, like...
Sometimes, I will admit, I do actually think about the ending of it, especially.
Yeah,
but it's like the interpersonal side of it more than anything that actually happened.
Exactly, but the thing is that I still think of 2018 more. Like, personally, I still think more about that game more. And again, it's just like if my life was so tied to what reviewers said of like this super high scoring game from last year, like I would feel like. But again, it's like everyone has their different things, and Ragnarok just didn't stick with me. And that was the second highest rated game from last year. Tears of the Kingdom, earlier this year I said probably one of my favorite games ever. At the time, I still think so many parts of it are there. I definitely cooled off massively from it. Not helped by Nintendo wanting to patent the things that which I learned that apparently the patents that they did are not going to be as enforceable as one may think because they're so generalized, and it's just them kind of like
unenforceable because like you almost can't copyright such simple things as looking at something.
Exactly, that kind of thing is just feel like, why are you like copywriting that? But there's been other copyrights that are like, that's kind of egregious that you're like copyrighting, and I wanted to like really slam that game and not even give it its flowers. That then I look about it, it's like, if I'm perfectly honest, that was such a great time we had this year with Zelda. It's just I don't think of it as highly as like the best thing that I played this year, because another game has actually stuck with my mind much longer. I listen to the soundtrack often, I think about its story moments often, that again, it didn't even score close to what it scored. And again, because these reviews are just snapshots of other people's opinions. This aggregation is just like conglomerating everything of what they're said. And in Starfield's case, where people are really care about like reviews and all that, they gotta be thankful that aggregations like took into account other publications, because when you see an 8.5 Game Informer and 2 7s from IGN and GameSpot, I can imagine like someone got diarrhea reading that if they cared too much about that, especially if they're putting older, like kind of like putting older chips in their basket. I'll say this, like Microsoft have been saying that this is the start of them starting a cadence for exclusives that are gonna hit and they're gonna be great after they lost their momentum, after they started that with 2021. This better be true now from this moment onward. They have a huge swath of exclusives coming next year. They still have Forza for later this year. They said that they want to at least hit 4 major big games a year. Technically, if you count this year, they did that. Hi-Fi Rush, Redfall, this one, and now Forza. That's 4. And one of them a failure, but they said that it was 4. But 2 of them reviewed really high. It almost the exact same score. Hi-Fi Rush and Starfield. Like, that's, you want these kinds of scores, because not everything was gonna be a 96. Not in this day and age.
That's the other thing that everybody keeps forgetting, is that that is such a rare thing to get a 96.
Exactly. Which makes it insane that Street Fighter 6 and Resident Evil 4 are in the 90s.
Yeah.
Resident, like I tell you, because Resident Evil 4 really was one of the best games of this year. It's just that it feels so long ago that I feel it came out last year. But no, it was in March.
Nope. I was thinking about that for Jedi Survivor, in fact, because it's like, what a time we were living through that game specifically.
That was our favorite thing, yeah.
Like in December or something, if I can find the time, I want to replay that game from the start, because I feel like
it has completely
so just overwhelmed by everything else going on that I don't even know if I could fully appreciate it for what it was.
I want to do that, because I just want to see like if I still feel about that. And again, kind of like how I was saying with Ragnarok, I kind of want to do it again. I just want to see like if my feelings towards it are right, and it's not being clouded by big. Because this happened to me before. Remember when I was shit talking on Uncharted 4 so many times?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
and then you replayed it and you were like, oh shoot, it's actually kind of good.
Exactly. So that's why I'm like, I want to give those time. Like, I feel November, especially with such a vacant November, and that being like the anniversary of that, I kind of wanted to give those games a go. It's just been like so. I don't know why, like specifically for that game, I made such a 180, because I went to listen to our spoiler cast again just to hear what I was saying, and I'm like, God, I don't feel that right now. Like, God, I said all this stupid stuff that I'm like, that I were praising it. I was like, I don't really feel that. And also because I play this year games that are like in kind of like in the same ilk as that one, that I was like, I think I enjoyed this more. Scale, I like Final Fantasy more. That we praised the big scale of Ragnarok last year, Paul.
Yeah.
And it's like, just this year we saw, like, we've seen it tenfold, that scale, like, being done even better.
That happens.
Yeah. You know, we know that it's like, we're not, like, Ragnarok was getting close to giving some of that, but it's like, no, it's like, this is what scale actually looks like. Or a story that really sticks with you, like in a deeply emotional way. Like, even Jedi Survivor, some of, like, the smaller moments of Survivor stuck with me more than Ragnarok. Like at later parts of that game, like I can wait to like re-experience it. Not to mention like, the relationship between Joshua and Clive in Final Fantasy 16. Like, was I crying when we recorded the spoilercast for Ragnarok like I was with Final Fantasy 16? That just tells you a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's why it's so funny to kind of think that way. So that's when I know, and I think this is also me seeing like the industry. No one, and I repeat, no one is talking about Ragnarok at all this year. With 2018,
I think it depends.
Yeah,
because there are some people that I'll still hear talking about how great it was. Yeah, but it's like in their own spheres. It's not your sphere anymore. That's like everybody's.
Yeah, really it's more like how often do you remember when you kept hearing about 2018 so often? You were one that we were like, I played it at first and I was like, just try to play it again with a different mindset. That's when it clicked for you last year. It's like people wouldn't stop talking about, like, I remember when IGN made the big, like, what's the best game of the decade? Like when they did the tier list, which was this game that won?
And everyone 2018 that won.
Yeah. And then with Ragnarok, like I keep so that's why I tell is like it feels like Ragnarok didn't leave like like a cultural impression. It was just more of the same. And I know everybody Sebastian kind of like balks at the idea, but I'm like, the facts are the facts. 2018 made an impact. Ragnarok didn't, because Ragnarok was just more of the same. That felt good in a year as empty as 2022. Getting more of that game in a year where only Elden Ring made like a big impact. Of course, Ragnarok was gonna feel much better. But if Ragnarok had been delayed, like we were fearing it was gonna be, and came out this year, I don't think it would have reviewed the same. I don't think it would have. It still have the same impact. They gotta be so thankful they came out the year that it did. Kind of like Ragnarok. So Ragnarok to me, Paul, is what I wanted Horizon to have nailed. Like Horizon should have come out in 2021, when everything else, like not even like notable, he would have gotten its flowers. So maybe because Horizon got delayed, it's like got buried.
It came out.
That same year,
wasn't it?
2022. This year was the DLC.
Okay,
this year was even the DLC.
When
so
did it come out anymore? I couldn't remember.
I keep saying, like, if Horizon had been 2021, like in such a bacon year, it would have won there. Ragnarok got its praises because it's like it itself felt more impressive, but the things that was so impressive about them, I just saw it being more impressive in other kinds of games. So it's sorry for the tangent for Ragnarok, but yeah, it's like this was Starfield. But I think I'm gonna try to commit to try to replay it. I'm gonna do it because it's like, I can't believe I feel so different to how we were like in that spoiler cast. It blows my mind. Like it absolutely blows my mind.
Hitting you real hard at the time. I mean, like
it was my most anticipated game that year. So
I still think that interpersonal side of it is really what's going to stand the test of time, and that's still going to hit because like I felt things about the concept of fatherhood and the concept of being a son to a difficult father more than I've ever really realized. But at the same time, just there's certain areas that it's just been done better even just a year later that takes some of that away. But I don't want it to sound like it's taking any of the power or the amazingness of what Ragnarok really did, I think.
And that's why I want to replay it once we're done with so much stuff, because it's like it troubles me that I feel that way. But I also wonder, because there's something that I kind of want to like mention when we talk about later in the story, that in my feelings towards that game are being clouded by the parent company also. So
very accurate.
Yeah, so that's why so we're definitely gonna get there. But let's go through the other stories again. Like, congratulations to Starfield, like getting great scores, like overall, even with the 3 big sites, makes it seem like a mid game just on those scores alone. But even the things that, if you read the text, like he compared, like the IGN one, like Skyrim and Fallout 4 before it, there's still an immense amount of quality role-playing quests and interesting NPCs out there waiting to be stumbled across, and the pull to seek it out is strong. So that sounds to me more like it is the exact same game you fell in love with. It's just in 2023, different context. That's kind of like how that sometimes reads. So can't wait, Paul. We're gonna play it in like 2 hours, and we're gonna get to see if those opening hours are as bad as people say it is.
Yeah.
But I can't wait. Like I tell you, it's a new IP. It's space exploration. If Avium, because of its freshness, could pull me, I feel this could do it too. So congrats to Todd Howard, because that's the thing. Like, congrats to them. Like that letter that Todd Howard put, like him, the story, the people that the person that championed that game when he pitched in 2013, he passed away in the middle of in the middle of the whole development of this thing. Bethesda almost going down under after 76 sunk them. Like Microsoft coming in to swoop them as basically a rescue. This was a decade-long journey for them. So for it to like review well outside of console tribalism, I'm happy for them. I'm happy that Xbox has a great game, like a legit great game that I know it's gonna be like, especially if this game has the time, like if it stands the test of time that Skyrim did. You just imagine it's like it's something that just keeps growing on prestige like over time. What if this is someone's first kind of Skyrim and it hits them that same way? We'll see. So
I'm hoping so.
Yeah, it feels good to be excited about an Xbox game. I tell you, it does feel nice, without caveats. So, moving to one other side of the aisle, because they dropped a random 15-minute direct today in regards to their big fall game. Our story number 2 by Charles Hart from Game Informer. Everything we will learn from today's Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is right around the corner, but outside of the initial reveal trailer, we didn't know much about Nintendo's latest 2D platformer. However, today's showcase was packed to the brim with gameplay reveals and new details, and now we've got a much clearer picture of what this game will look like. Wonder no longer. Here's everything we've learned from the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct. Nice. The game starts when Prince Florian, ruler of the Flower Kingdom, has his castle stolen by Bowser. After fusing with a Wonder Flower, the King of the Koopas is able to fly over his new land, populating it with his chaotic cronies. As always, it's up to Mario and friends to save the day, but this time around, he's got more buddies than usual. In addition to Luigi, Peach, and a pair of Toads, Toadette and Daisy are also along for the ride. Unlike some past games, each character here plays the same, meaning Peach has no built-in floating ability, and Luigi jumps just as high as Mario. By the way, that was such a disappointment. I'll say that because that was what was cool about like older Mario's. It's like I love using Peach for the floating, because it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use her as like just to control more of my jumps, or even Luigi had the super jump thing, but everything else kind of like assuaged that afterwards. But that was I thought that was a little lame. But moving from that.
I'm actually more upset with the next sentence.
Yeah. For younger or less skilled players, you can also play as Yoshi or Nabbit, the latter of which is returning from his debut in New Super Luigi U. Neither of these characters takes damage from enemies, so they're useful for people who want to play the game with less of a challenge. The Yoshis also retain their signature flutter jump and swallowing abilities, and they can even be ridden by other players.
So, like, how are you going to put Yoshi and Nabbit, which are like the most unique characters, behind the fact that they are forced to be just invincible? What if somebody likes Yoshi?
Yeah.
Like, come on. I thought it was so cool. They had like 8 to 10 or something characters. And then like 2 of them are the easy mode built in. Like, you can't just play a character and then put that on as an option. It's gaming 101, people. Yeah,
especially exclusive to that. Maybe do like just one version of Yoshi that's like easy, and then have the version of Yoshi that's hard.
Make it like a different color Yoshi.
Yeah, instead of a blanket difficulty thing. So, yeah, the Flower Kingdom is made up of 7 worlds: Pipe Rock Plateau, Fluff Fluff Peaks, Shining Falls, the Petal Isles, and 3 more that have yet to be named. The map is traversed like a standard Mario overworld, locking you to certain paths on your way to a set order of courses, but there are also sections where you can move around freely and tackle courses in any order. I do like that. It's very Super Mario 3D World. There will also be a course menu you can use to easily access courses in case you don't feel like walking there every time. So basically, if you want to be like, yeah, I'm going to walk through the levels instead, or put a list, you can decide either way. So it's kind of like a quality of life thing. Once you enter one of the courses, there are a few new power-ups to make use of. The elephant. But the elephant is, I bet the memes you saw is the elephant, right?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, so the elephant
Everyone was like, oh no, all
Elephant
Peach and Daisy are elephants. No, not the memes.
Yeah, but that's the thing that I like because it's wild. It's like, it's so wild seeing that.
I appreciate it. It's hilarious, but certain people are gonna get way too much enjoyment out of it.
Oh, way too many. So, the elephant power allows you to use your trunk as a weapon, smash bricks more easily, run across large gaps, and store water for later use. We also saw bubble power that allows you to summon bubbles for offense or platforming, along with a drill power-up that can damage enemies above you and allow you to burrow into the ground or ceiling. Other than traditional power-ups, there are other ways to give your characters new abilities. The flashiest examples of this are Wonder Flowers, which trigger dramatic visual and artistic stage transformations. That's the thing that with the psychedelic thing we saw from the reveal trailer. That that riff mechanic, kind of that changes the level. So,
yeah.
As examples, we saw warp pipes jump to life, hordes of enemies spawning, and characters transforming into balloons or spike balls. Once you collect the Wonder Seed, the stage will return to normal. These seeds can later be used to unlock new courses. The other new abilities come from badges, which are equipable items that alter your gameplay style. Examples here include a parachute cap, a dolphin kick that gives you a burst of speed underwater, and a grappling vine. You can only equip one at a time, and you'll have to unlock them over the course of the game, but this seems like a subtle way to massively change your gameplay experience. That's one of the big things I was like, this is where the evolution of 2D Mario kind of comes from like the new Super Mario games from way back in 2006 to this. So, finally, the Direct gave us a look at Super Mario Wonder's multiplayer options. You can play with 4 players locally, but instead of turning into bubbles when they die like in previous games, they become ghosts. If another player can reach them before their timer runs out, they'll respawn with no life lost. If you enable online play, you'll be able to see other players as shadows, playing courses at the same time as you. They can also bring your ghost back to life, either by manually touching you or by placing a standee in a course. Standees are basically signposts modeled after characters and can be purchased from a Poplin shop. If you want to play online with friends, some courses will also allow you to race through them. By hitting a race block with shadows in the same course, you can trigger a timer to see who can reach the end first, though this will sometimes require you to defeat a boss or collect a Wonder Seed as well. That's everything we learned about Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but the Direct didn't end there. We also learned about a Mario-themed OLED Switch, out just a few weeks before the game. And that was basically our next story.
Yep.
Yeah, do you get to see the footage of this, Paul, or no?
Like maybe a couple GIFs. That was the max.
Yeah.
Because I forgot that it was even happening. I knew it was mentioned,
Yeah.
and then afterwards I was like, oh yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I woke up, and as I was waiting for the review embargo for Starfield to lift, I was like, oh yeah, in the last 15 minutes, I'm just gonna watch this before the reviews drop. So I finished watching it right when the review embargo lifted. So I got to see it. It's like, there's some things that to me is like, it's kind of setting those things that we talked about, but how this game looks, it's like there's like a level of creativity in it for a 2D Mario game that I haven't seen since they first did a 2D 3D Mario game way back in 2006. The 2D Mario has just been stale outside of Super Mario Maker, and a lot of what I saw was like, yeah, it's like, I'm glad that Nintendo's getting weird. Like, I love when Nintendo really goes weird. So but other than that, it's like I was already so, like, to me, like, you give me 2D Mario, I'm getting it. And this is still coming out the same day as Spider-Man, and I don't care playing both of those games together. They're so different from one another. One is can be like, it's kind of like how I feel about Armored Core 6 right now, with like its level structure and all that. This feels like great companion games to something else that's a little bit more long form. So Armored Core 6 is like what I'm gonna be juggling next to Starfield. This is gonna be the thing that I'm gonna be juggling next to Spider-Man, since as of this moment I'm not reviewing Spider-Man, but I'm kind of like third option for reviewing it, like if the other two can't. So because I've reviewed too many things. This is other people want to have more chances to review it.
Nuts.
Yeah. So just to keep with that, with the story number 3, Mario Red, a Nintendo Switch OLED announced. Story by Marcus Stewart from Game Informer. Today, Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Direct spilled a lot of tea on the upcoming game and concluded with the reveal of a new Switch OLED model. If you love the color red, then Nintendo has a console for you. The Mario Red Edition Switch OLED is coated in the plumber's classic shade of red, and the dock even includes a couple of Mario silhouettes and hidden coins on the backside. Which, if you go into the story, Paul, like, it actually looks really cool. Like that full red.
I'm looking at the pictures of it. I will give it to him. It looks really good.
Yeah, and the console does.
Say that.
Yeah, the console does not include a copy of Wonder, mainly because it hits store shelves a couple of weeks beforehand on October 6th. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, meanwhile, launches on October 20. Still, if you're a passionate Mario fan looking for an excuse to upgrade to an OLED model, this version will set you back $349.99, basically the same price as an OLED.
Right.
The full red thing looks, I really love, like, when everything is just like a one aesthetic. It's the one thing that I love about the Xbox controller that we have for the S. It's all white with the buttons. The PS4 controller, the PS5 controller is like all white, and that black thing in the.
I like that one, but I also
much
do
prefer
like
this.
A really nice.
That's why I love my black
color.
Yeah, that's why I love this black controller for the PS5. For that. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I have too much to say about this besides the fact that I appreciate it. It's kind of dumb that they're just gonna put it out there 2 weeks early and not even include the game, because like, there's gonna be so many people getting confused by that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I don't even. Did the Zelda OLED have the game? I don't think it did either.
Oh, I couldn't tell you for sure for the OLED. No.
Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, OLED Switch. I'm trying to see if it included the game. Let me see. I'm reading at the closely on the surface of symbols, hardware designs. No, they don't include the game.
Golly,
yeah, they don't.
Ridiculous.
Game's not included, so they just love the theme thing and not including the game. Those Nintendo, those bastards, I tell you. So, here's my thing. a new Switch is coming next year. There were news that Nintendo behind closed doors at Gamescom was showing the new system to developers, so they could be like aware of like what was happening, so they can start speccing towards the new thing. So unless you never had a Switch somehow in this over this past 6 years, and you just want to have one, and the Mario movie and this game kind of have you like hankering, and now you want to experience literally everything that has come out for the Switch in the last 6 years, that's the only way that I could justify this at the same time. And also the fact that we still don't know if backwards compatibility with the new Switch is happening. That's still such a question mark. So that's like the only reason why I would say, yeah, definitely buy this if you haven't gotten a Switch. Because I tell you, I've seen the OLED screen, Paul. If you're playing handheld, that thing is beautiful. The games pop in that thing. And the screen is slightly bigger than the Switch that we have. So it's better to play it in handheld mode. But if you're playing on TV, it's like, if what you want to play is a Switch on TV, just get a normal one. Because it's the exact same experience. There's no like benefit that you get on a TV if you get this one. This one is if you just want a better screen handheld. So, but if what you want is like the next Switch, or you don't mind spending $350 on something that's just all solid color red, have at it. I mean, the game's not even there. Me, I'm just gonna buy the game when it comes out on October 20th. Story number 4, Paul. We have heard versions of this story before, but this is kind of like a tiny extra detail, and this is part of a Game Informer coverage of this game. They are like the monthly cover story for this coming month for the site. Assassin's Creed Mirage started as Valhalla DLC with Eivor in the Middle East. Story by Wesley LeBlanc. When Ubisoft revealed Assassin's Creed Mirage last September during a special stream celebrating the series' 15th anniversary, the game was up to bat as the next in the long-running series. Set to hit PlayStation, Xbox, and PC for $49.99 with a scaled-back approach and a much shorter runtime, Ubisoft indicated it was using Mirage to return to the series' roots, serving as a spiritual successor to Altair's adventure that started it all. However, Mirage wasn't always its own game. It started as DLC to 2020's Assassin's Creed Valhalla. At first, we were working on Assassin's Creed Valhalla and the DLC, and the idea came up to create a specific expansion for Valhalla and go back to the Middle East. Mirage creative director Stéphane Boudon tells me in the Ubisoft Bordeaux office. We wanted, as a longtime fan of the series, to go back to this environment and those vibes, and it was also near the 15th anniversary of the brand, so it was for us something we wanted to bring back for the player. The Mirage DLC pitch went so well for the newcomer studio, which opened in 2017 and has mainly worked as a support studio for others within Ubisoft, it was greenlit to become a standalone game. At first, yes, it was a pitch on paper, Boudon says. And it was even Eivor going to the Middle East, and as soon as we switched, we decided to go with Mirage. Boudon says Mirage's DLC only lasted a few weeks because, even when creating the pitch for Basim's adventure, the team was crossing its fingers for the green light to become a standalone experience. It's funny because we did the full work for the pitch for a DLC, but at the end, we already saw him working on the pitch that it could be something, so at the end, we end the presentation with, but it can be more. So we pushed a little bit and it worked and was wonderful for everybody. At just $49.99, Ubisoft highlights that Mirage is in a massive 100-hour open-world RPG like Valhalla or the two Assassin's Creed games before it. But it's still a full release and you're entering this long-running franchise. And after playing it for a couple hours for Game Informer's cover story, it feels like a breath of fresh air. If those hours of hands-on play are any indication, Ubisoft made the right call turning what was once a DLC into a full Assassin's Creed game. It's an added extra detail, but I do love that idea that after the pitch, that you really threw the Hail Mary. But it's like, look, it's a DLC, but if you believe in this, like we can make it its own thing. And now we got a traditional Assassin's Creed game back in the menu for October 5th.
Kind of glad, because if it had stayed a DLC, I don't think as many people would have played it.
No.
Nobody would have been willing to buy the main game to do it unless they made it standalone, like Blood Dragon or something. But at the same time, a lot of people don't want to play anything that's called DLC at all, especially if it's standalone, because they're like, I didn't play the rest of the game. It's like, even though that doesn't matter, nobody would. So I'm really glad they just decided to fully commit to a new, well, not new, but different character that everybody loved from Valhalla and put it in the right setting.
Yeah, and it would have been so weird because it would have been so tonally and aesthetically separate from Valhalla. Valhalla is so unified in its aesthetic, even in its three pairs of DLCs.
And it
came
looks
out.
like you move so different and everything. So trying to do that and translate it over, I don't think would have worked very well.
And I think I'm glad that it became its own thing, because could you imagine them being like, we're doing this DLC in this like already tied to already this massive game that came out at the launch of the new systems, with the same, and being like, it's gotta be more stealth focused. And I was being like, but you haven't fixed stealth in that game, by the way. But could you imagine? At the very least, this becoming like its own thing. They dialed in the systems. You can legit stealth in this game. You can play it as an assassin compared to the other one that you had to like jump through hoops to remain like that. You send me the video and I told you, like, yeah, because there's some specific spots in this game where out of nowhere an enemy sees you, just enter like attack formation, and you haven't done anything to see it for them to see you. It's like the stealth of that game was like, even though they were like, no, it's like we try to bring back like the one hit assassinations in this for people that missed them in the other two, but it's like, yeah, but trying to stealth your way through this game is like you have to like constantly try to like break alert sequences. Like you cannot do like a clean stealth playthrough of Valhalla.
Yeah.
And so many of that game pushes you for the raids and all of that. So you just gotta they moved on from that, because positive preview coverage for this game, like the vibes out of the Ubisoft Forward from earlier this year that demoed more of the game, and you get to see more. Is like, even people are saying, it's like they seem like they're slowly bringing back some Unity stuff. We had kind of heard of that, so it's like, yeah, bring that back, because Unity right now works. So
it was a good implementation, just bad execution.
Yeah, no, good implementation, undercooked at launch. They cooked it later, and people didn't care.
Fair.
Because it's like, now that people see it, be like, oh, so this is what this game was. Now that it's finished and like fully cooked, and man, it sucks that they took too harshly the criticism and didn't know what they had.
Yeah.
So excited for this. This is 15 days before Spider-Man, so a good 2 weeks to play this. Feels like a right time. I think we'll be done by the thing is that, going back to Starfield, apparently the main story is 20 hours. Just mainlining.
Because mainlining and rushing, he said. So maybe you can play the main line and take your time, and it takes longer. But
I've seen so many people say finish the main quest first before going so. I'm gonna do that. I usually try to do as much side quest stuff as I want before doing the main quest, but it feels like this game, you're gonna be more rewarded if you do that early. So that's the thing. I feel I could be done with Starfield by the time this comes out. We have a full month to play Starfield. So.
Oh yes, I'm so happy.
Oh yeah. So story number 5, Paul. This was sad because it dropped out of nowhere, and cheekily they dropped that around the time of the review embargo for Starfield, so they knew what they were doing, because they were gonna bury the story when everyone was just gonna be like either praising or shouting about Starfield. Story number 5 by also Game Informer's Marcus Stewart. Saints Row developer Volition Games has been shut down. Volition Games, the studio behind franchises such as Saints Row and Red Faction, has been shut down effective immediately. The news first broke on x.com/twitter.com, with several employees posting that they had been let go and that the studio was no more. In an official statement on the studio's website, Volition states that Swedish holdings company Embracer Group, which acquired the studio in 2018, has forced it to cease operations as part of Embracer's company-wide restructuring. Volition's full farewell post reads as follows. The Volition team has proudly created world-class entertainment for fans around the globe for 30 years. We've been driven by a passion for our community and always worked to deliver joy, surprise, and delight. This past June, Embracer Group announced a restructuring program to strengthen Embracer and maintain its position as a leader in the video game industry. As part of that program, they evaluated strategic and operational goals and made the difficult decision to close Volition effective immediately. To help our team, we're working to provide job assistance and help smooth the transition for our Volition family members. We thank our customers and fans around the world for all the love and support over the years. You will always be in our hearts, Volition Games. Embracer's restructuring is the result of the disastrous collapse of a proposed $2 billion partnership with the Savvy Games Group, a Saudi Arabian-funded organization who backed out of the deal in May. This caused Embracer's share value to plummet, forcing the mega corporation into cost-cutting mode after it spent years acquiring a multitude of game studios and entertainment IPs such as The Lord of the Rings. Embracer CEO Lars Wingefors announced in an open letter plans to make the company a leaner, stronger, and more focused, self-sufficient company, which included plans to close or sell off some of its game studios, along with halting projects in development and other cost-saving measures. Unfortunately, Volition has become one of the first casualties of this restructuring. Volition's demise comes after this company celebrated its 30th anniversary as a studio in June. Beginning with the Descent series, released under Volition's original game Parallax software, and releasing cult favorites such as Summoner, it found major success with the Red Faction franchise during the 2000s, peaking with the well-received Red Faction Guerrilla in 2009, which, by the way, you can play in a remaster form right now. Volition would kick off the Xbox 360 generation with the release of Saints Row, a GTA-inspired series that would steadily gain popularity and a unique identity before reaching its zenith with the critically acclaimed Saints Row III in 2011. However, following the release of Saints Row 4 in 2013, the studio entered a rough patch. It took a swing with a new IP in the tepidly received Agents of Mayhem in 2017, which garnered disappointing sales. Its final game, 2022 Saints Row Reboot, also received a mixed reaction from fans and underperformed in sales to the point that Embracer transferred the studio to Gearbox. With the studio's closure, it's unclear what will become of Saints Row, Red Faction, and the other franchises under its umbrella. While the last few years were in kind of Volition, there's no denying the positive impact these games and series had on the industry. What's your favorite Volition game? Share your memories in the comments. In the Game Informer. One bomb and the studio's out. It's so sad. It's really, really, really sad that their reboot last year just killed them.
I hate Embracer so much.
Let's gobble up everything, Paul. Let's go. What? I'm gonna buy you. I'm gonna buy you. I'm gonna buy. What's in the market? We're gonna gobble up everything. What are you gonna do with all that? We don't know. Like, what's your financial stability? We'll figure it out. We're gonna try to partner up with the Saudis. Oh yeah, the Saudis backed out. We have no share price. We gotta like kill everything now. It's like in the Embracer group, gobbling everything up and how it's been handled now is like one of the most catastrophic things that's happening in the gaming industry. Remember that night, Paul? Yep. When they were gobbling everything, when we learned, like,
I don't know
last year
I was quoted to have been saying, but I hope I called this from the start, where I was like, they are putting their eggs in such one basket. Like, I think at one point I was optimistic because I was like, maybe they're gonna use it. Maybe they're gonna finally take these things out of.
Yeah, we were saying that because the remaster for Saints Row the Third was good. The remaster for Red Faction was good. The Destroy All Human games, like, because it was like AA feels like they have a future again because Embracer is like it's bringing those back, and hopefully they will. The reason why they keep doing it is because they are properly budgeted. They're like have proper expectations, and that means that they are profitable enough for them to keep doing it. What did I learn? The Saints Row reboot cost them $100 million to make. When you look at that game, that doesn't look like a game that costs that much. And then, like, it reviewed horribly last year. We enjoyed it at the time because, again, it was like, when you are famished for 4 months and you just want to play something, this is what we played. And it was like, when you realize that the remaster for Saints Row the Third was better than the full-on reboot, that's when you knew something went wrong with that thing. That's what turned around my opinion, because I was like, oh shoot, it's like the remaster from the 2011 game. It's like feels like a much more solid game, better made game. What the hell happened to the reboot? It's like, where did the personality really go, and all that, and
the writing, the characters, the everything is just a step down. And I don't even hate the Saints Row reboot. That's the craziest part. Because I still kind of had moments where I enjoyed myself. That's crazy.
We enjoyed it at the moment. It's hindsight that's not been kind, because then we saw it for what it really was. Because again, 2022 wasn't a good year. It just wasn't. Compared to this year, even worse. Like, it made all of those games feel better because we just wanted something to play. So, and it was good that we got that, because we got it around this time last year while we were waiting on stuff. So it's just so sad. It's like, it took one game and it killed the studio. A studio that survived the death of THQ back in 2012, 2013.
A studio that went through everything already.
Yeah. And it was unfortunate that Agents of Mayhem didn't do well for them. I thought it was fine. It just wasn't Saints Row. And yeah, RIP Volition. It sucks. It really, really, really sucks. And to me, it's just the fact that I was so happy that I felt like all of these IPs had at least a home, because it was like no one's using them. So Embracer's buying these IPs, and we see that they're putting these remasters and all of that, maybe with proper budgets and all of that, then it means that these games can have a future again. That's how we got like even Kingdoms of Amalur got revived through that. So that's what was exciting at first. I feel like, okay, at least they have a home, someone that wants to like pursue this side of AA gaming that had been dead for so long. Remember who it was just Triple A's and Indies? AA moved away. It felt like that, but it's like if the kind of corporation that gobbled up all of this is one that one failed partnership that was gonna give them $2 billion completely collapsed them. Now I worry now that all that IP pool is gonna be. Now it could, like, if it goes under, it's all gonna be lost. Oh man. Quickly how the tables turn for them. How quickly.
Just makes me so sad and frustrated. And Volition was one of those few holdouts that could really make something good.
It was one of their better studios. Like, they had so many like cheaper, more like, this was supposed to be kind of like the studio that at least would try to play in the AAA, like higher quality AA, maybe if we want to be like honest based on where they were. But yeah, it is so funny. This is happening literally when their game's gonna show up on PS Plus. So, isn't it like the timing is suspect?
Yep, getting a little bit of money left.
Yeah. Final story, Paul. We mentioned it, but time to talk about this. Final story by Marcus Stewart from Game Informer. PS Plus gets significant price increases next week. Yesterday, Sony announced the next slate of monthly games for the month of September. It also revealed that each subscription tier of PlayStation Plus is getting a significant price bump. The PlayStation blog reveals that September's free games will be 2022 Saints Row, Black Desert Traveler Edition, and Generation Zero. They'll become available on September 5 and can be downloaded until October 2nd. On September 6th, 12-month subscriptions for PlayStation Plus Essential, Extra, and Premium will be raised to the following prices. The Essential tier, the base tier, which was $59.99 a year and gives you the 3 games monthly and online play, bumped up to $80. Extra, which was $99.99, the $100 that gave you online play and the big like Game Pass style catalog of either a bunch of exclusives from Sony and games that sometimes come into the service and all that, going from $100 to $135. Premium, the high tier, the highest tier of that service, which is where you can find like the kind of like the classic catalog, the PS1, PS2, and PS3 streamable games, going from $120 a year to $160 a year. You can read the article. You can read the article for at the PlayStation blog for a refresher on the benefits of each subscription tier, which will not be changing. Current 12-month subscribers will not see these prices take effect until their next renewal date occurring on or after November 6. Changing your membership, such as buying more time or downgrading tiers on or after September 6, means paying the new prices though. Sony also states that the new prices remain at a discounted rate compared to the single or 3-month options. Sony has not revealed the new monthly quarterly rates. In the blog post, Sony explains the changes by stating, "This price adjustment will enable us to continue bringing high-quality games and value-added benefits to your PlayStation Plus subscription service. It's worth noting that for now, Sony has not announced any new additional benefits following the pricing updates. The move comes at a time when several streaming and subscription services have raised their fees, so it's not entirely surprising, but if you're looking to sign up for PS Plus or change a subscription, now would be the time in order to save some money." What was your reaction when you saw this yesterday, Paul?
It's exactly what I'm looking at. It was just extreme doubt, disappointment, and a little frustration.
Yeah.
More than a little, honestly, because it's like, on the one hand, I want to believe that they're like, okay, well, they're giving us a lot of stuff, but when I really thought about it, it's $135 for what I'm currently playing for a year,
Mm-hmm.
and by comparison, it was like 60 maybe for an entire year of being able to play online.
Online. Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to pay before.
Yeah.
There was a point you could do this for free.
Yeah. Think about it like this, Paul. Like, this has been the most significant price increase they've had since like 2016. Because before 2016, the price for a month was $5. The price for the price for 3 months was $18, and then the price for a year was $50.
Yep.
Then with inflation, all that, they say like to adjust things. Then the monthly became $10. The 3 months became $24.99, and then the year became $60. Slight, but it's like okay. It's like it feels like we've seen so many subscriptions like slightly like Disney Plus went up $1.
Yeah, which that's already frustrates me enough as it is.
Exactly, but it's like something
this
like just
level audacity.
Yeah,
that's what kills me right now.
Yeah, the audacity of jumping like significantly on the same. Like, here's what's so funny. Last week we didn't report it in the show, but I heard like in some of the financial things that they were no longer going to report numbers for PlayStation Plus.
That's dumb.
Yeah, and my thing is, now I get why, because they were just gonna skyrocket the price of this thing. And
I'm here.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, just disappeared there.
I was just opening the door because my cat was yelling at it.
Oh, okay, and I didn't hear anything. Yeah, and my dog has been surprisingly quiet. I'm pretty happy about my Psycho.
Famous last words.
Yes, and then she's gonna start barking at it. But it. What is he even saying? But
it's just the price of everything and why it's so high compared to everything else. Because you've been kind of going through the chronology of where the subscription price was. Yeah,
so it's like inflation makes it a thing. Like I kind of understand it. They haven't had like a price increase in like forever, but the audacity is such a massive jump. Yeah, especially when. Here's the thing about it this way: they announced it as an aside after announcing the games that they were gonna offer the monthly subscribers on September. And let me not mince words, Paul. This is the shittiest 3 games that they've ever offered in the monthly subscription, because
it's absolutely up there in the top 5. Like, you would think that for the month that they're going to announce the craziest jump in price, they would have to give us something really nuts, like pick one of the most recent exclusives and give that away for free, and they were going to raise the price, and people would go to bat for you, saying, no, look, they just gave us this. That's indicating that, like, you don't even have to.
They're jumping quality
with that.
Yeah, because like they're jumping through. Like it's like they're increasing the price, but they're taking care of us by giving us better like quality of what they're doing. Instead, it's like you announce the shittiest 3 games you can possibly get, because Saints Row 2022 is a bad game. Generation Zero was a bad game also. I heard that it got better because they kind of reworked it and all that, but it was like a really terrible game.
And then you get a not even full priced bundle for a free to play game.
Exactly, for a free to play game. And then you're like, and now that's gonna be $20 extra for the year. And then it's like, then you're there it is.
To clarify, the Traveler Edition is only $30.
And there's higher tiers, right? It's not even like the best tiers.
I don't even think that's the main one. You can buy so much other stuff with that. They're not even giving us a full-priced game for free. That's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, and then when we move up to extra and premium, obviously we had already known, especially when they finally launched these new tiers, when we're like, okay, Game Pass is like stepping it up. What are they gonna do to try to like compete? And we knew that it wasn't like a true competitor, because they were foregoing to try to do the day one Game Pass thing with first party like Microsoft was doing. And then they were justifying be like, because the cost of our games are such that it's like launching them on the services are just gonna be cost prohibitive. Like, we need those sales. I mean, it's their excuse. It's like that was the path they wanted to pursue, and then you could understand it because Sony doesn't have the cash to burn like Microsoft does, where they can just keep losing money on that.
Clearly they don't.
But this pricing it like this, and in this kind of jump, and with no like added benefits, is just you accepting that you don't care about properly growing the service. This is an afterthought. You're just gonna squeeze dry the people that want to quote unquote save money, because here's what's so funny that they're mentioning is like, oh yes, like we're like jacking up the prices for the yearly, but it's still cheaper than buying month to month. Yes, you can say that, but it's still $160 for a premium tier, which I tell you, I have never seen a service where the premium tier, the top tier, is straight up garbage. Like how little effort they put in putting games like the classic games into that catalog. How they still like refuse to say anything or update us on the fact that they're gonna try to give us the PS3 native backwards compatibility that some people know that are in the know have heard like behind the scenes that they have that working. Is just from a game to game basis. Like they have to do like individual emulators for each game because that's how weird the PS3 was.
Yeah. If
they had announced this and be like, and by the way, with this, now all our PS3 games that were here, like we were offering here for streaming, they have now become native. Imagine if they had said that.
Now that
it would have softened the blow. But the fact that they didn't do this, and again, this was just as an aside after just announcing the games. Just was at the bottom, yeah. Oh yeah, and by the way, we're like jacking up the prices. It's peace. They use it. It's just, I tell you, it's like the PS5 era of PlayStation, Paul, is, as someone that has followed this brand for like since I got a PS1 all the way back in the 1990s with Hercules and Gran Turismo as my first games, and playing through a lot of it and sticking with it on PS3 when they were like fumbling and all that. The fucking attitude of this company currently, like that, cares so little about its fan base, treats its fan base like afterthoughts, that they could go an entire year without a damn showcase and then deliver the kind of showcase they gave us, where as a collection of games, solid. As a way to tell us, hey, I was that invested in your system to play your games. What are you offering us? And what they said, and me learning, apparently they're not even. Remember when we were like, yeah, that showcase solid. If they do another one to talk, because they still have to like sell Final Fantasy and Spider-Man. Hearing that how they're probably gonna talk to us again is a state of play. And this feels like this is just kind of like. Get the bad news out of the way before we have to talk on. It's like the fact they're the number one seller pisses me off, even as someone that mains on their console, because this is the attitude of someone that's in their ivory tower. Is what I've always been saying, that why I always wanted Microsoft to like kick them in the ass. Because this is what not having competition is like. They're only racing just because they can get away with it, jacking up the price that significantly. They have a horrible PR system currently that cares so little about like about the fan bases, and it also sucks that also there's so many ponies, so many freaking ponies that would defend them. This is how you Nintendo-fy this company. And they're there now. And it sucks. And
if there's one benefit to all of this, it's that I renewed my subscription last month.
At least you had got one. So at least you got that. I renewed it in June. And in fact, I actually got premium because they offered it to me for $80. They were like, hey, yeah, your yearly subscription, because I did bump it up to premium with 3 months to go. You know how something's like you can like, it prorates it, like depending on how many more you want to like do the upgrade. There were a few games that were added to the service. I was like, it's typically super cheap for me. I'm gonna like upgrade it, and then before I have to like renew, I'll cancel it. And then I got the email of being like, hey, yeah, your renewal is coming soon, and we want to offer you to stay on premium for $80. I was like, for 80 in a year, the highest tier.
Yeah,
I'll do it for that one. I am not doing premium ever again, like a year. Not at $160. That's 2 games that I could buy.
Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah, and even extra right now, like I don't know if I may do a year again. with these prices. Like $60 PS Plus a year. Yeah, I could get because I play online. But it's like right now there's been even a lot of chatter. A lot of people with these prices, even like just essential. People are like, I'm even reconsidering if I'm going to keep playing my online games on PlayStation that you require PS Plus to play.
Yeah.
Because it's like for this, especially for a company that doesn't even give you the online games, like they want to give it to you with for games and Concord apparently, but we don't even know what those games are. So it's like, it's just. It kind of what I mentioned earlier with Ragnarok. It makes me wonder if my feelings toward this company is like what's clouding me from like loving their games, or wanting to love it. Like if I'm kind of like just feeling salty in general, and that's coming at the expense of the hard work from the developers that have nothing to do with this. But sometimes everything is so intrinsically tied together. So, gosh.
I wish I even had like a more positive way to spin it somehow, but
you can't.
I can't. Yeah, it's just crappy, and the worst part is that I don't know, and I don't think they're gonna be convinced to renege on that or anything. It's just that's the reality we're gonna have to deal with, because we're gonna complain and we're gonna whine, and enough people are gonna buy it that they're gonna be like, "Cool, we're gonna keep doing this."
Yeah, the thing is that some PlayStation fans did renege on a few stuff that they ended up walking back. Horizon's Forbidden West, like free upgrade. When they originally announced that it was going to get a free upgrade, when they unveiled the different editions and all that, that free upgrade was nowhere to be seen. And people did renege for an entire weekend, and then on that following Monday, they reneged and be like, yeah, you're right. We said that. So we're going to give it for free, but just know that any future upgrade is now $10. They renege on that. A lot of people renege when they were trying to close down the PS3 store back in 2021. And that was a loud thing because they knew so many of those games just were not, they never went forward and they could get lost to the ether. And then it was such a loud reneging that then eventually they put a pin on that. They just deactivated being able to put a credit card into the PS3. The only way to buy games on PS3 store is if you buy cards, kind of like we do when we do our arrangement. They were loud and they reneged on that. I didn't see as much reneging on this, and it fucking pisses me off. Because it's like, you don't jack up these prices this much for no added benefit. And if the added benefit, if they feel the added benefit, we're going to jack up the price, now we're going to give you Saints Row. If that's like, they feel that's good enough, like, holy crap.
That is just the slap.
Yeah,
right at the end of it all.
Yeah, it's just absolutely insane. Like I tell you, it's like the before and after for me this year was that fucking showcase. I tell you, that showcase from like May really like my whole tenure towards PlayStation. I'm tracing back like why like I started becoming salty for that. Like how long it took me to like try to get excited for Spider-Man. Around the time that I was being more negative about Ragnarok, I think this is why, because of this. Sony, you're fucking it up. You're like making people hate you and hate the great games you have. Like, especially my favorite game is a game that is exclusive to them for this year, Final Fantasy.
Yep.
So think about that. It's
like we can't be allowed to just enjoy anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Final Fantasy 16, Sony and Square Enix being pissed off at the earnings of it internationally.
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda and Nintendo can't enjoy that either. Xbox, everything that we just discussed.
Yeah.
We can't win. Everybody's just crappy.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy 16 sales thing, like that to me, just the walk back pissed me off to no end. But that was just a Square Enix thing. You go in and be happy and announce your happiness for selling 3 million in a week. And emphasize like how low of an install base it has and how you got as many sales as Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was in significantly more systems. And then on your earnings report, you're like, oh yeah, we didn't meet our high end of expectations and crash your stock because of saying that. It's just where's the logic? It's kind of what I tell you. It's like AAA space. We're getting so many great games. Like if we separate all the bullshit right now, we're getting so many great stuff. No one can deny that. this is why I always say that we're not gonna get another 2023 like this again, and it's in precarious position. Like AAA industries in precarious positions is these are the kind of prices that things have to be jacked up if they're trying to justify, because it's either greed or that's how bad inflation has gotten. But the thing is that by the way you're announcing it, it's just straight up greed. You're just doing it because you know your family is just gonna fucking swallow it. So, man. And I was getting very excited for Spider-Man.
Starfield?
Yeah, yeah, right. It's in an hour, so the release we get to play that and not forget. Again, I hope it's not broken, Paul. I hope that it's not like one of those that then, as we start playing, we start seeing like all the glitchy, broken shit that happens.
If I can power through Cyberpunk on launch, I think I got this.
Yeah,
but
I'm so encouraged.
Love it.
Yeah, I just want to love. So it just feels. Oh man, I tell you, it's like. I wish I didn't live through the PS4 generation, because comparing it to what we have now, it's so legitimately heartbreaking how Jim Ryan taking control of that company like makes me hate it. And it will only and the fact that the PS5 is having such a thing about it is, Paul, they have released less games this year. Way less compared to last year, where they actually had a legit catalog that no one could enjoy because they were being such babies about the Call of Duty thing. Because it was like, you remain shut about Call of Duty, that everyone would be praised to be like, hey, compared to your competition, you release games, including one that's the second highest rated game of the year in Ragnarok. Like, you put out games when your competitor put out nothing. And why are people saying that was one of the PlayStation's worst years ever? Because of the attitude. But I feel like PlayStation has now transcended into becoming so endemic as a system for many people that they live outside this bubble, that they're seeing massive success regardless of their fucking attitude. And I hate that. Because then a lot of people defend that. Because I remember when even the podcast that I was like listening to, he was trying to defend it. It's like, oh yeah, the showcase doesn't matter. But it's like, it's not gonna matter. It's like PlayStation 5 is just gonna keep selling millions of copies. Spider-Man 2 is gonna be big. And it's like, I don't get the consternation of everyone. And I'm like, this is what that attitude brings. This right here. So... And I like being more positive about things, but it's very hard to try to be positive with Sony, I tell you. And it was so frustrating that Microsoft got so behind now. It's like, I thought they had a fighting chance. Even Microsoft already said we're never gonna pick them up. So I really hope that Activision thing really falls on them. Like, maybe they're trying to downplay the importance. But yeah, let's just enjoy Starfield as we can, and then hopefully we can enjoy Spider-Man when it comes out, like, removed from this. And I feel bad I really feel bad for the developers. That is like, man, sometimes you cannot separate the art from the corporation, I tell you. And
that's one thing we've learned this year. It's definitely that.
Yeah, so, Paul, news over. Read the releases for this week.
All right.
For the week of September 3rd to September 9th.
Chants of Sinar on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on September 5th. Rune Factory 3 Special on the Switch on September 5th. Baldur's Gate 3 on the PlayStation 5 on September 6th. Starfield, Xbox Series X and S and PC. Little indie game that y'all might not have heard about. September 6th. Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis coming out on iOS and Android. I think, what is this, like the new version, or it's
basically,
completed?
Ever Crisis is basically kind of like the chibi remake of all the Final Fantasy VII story altogether.
But that was
just
like a
mobile. That's for iOS and Android.
Right, but I'm saying like it already existed, didn't it? It was like an early access, or
there was a beta. There was like a beta. The people, for some reason, there was a beta. That's the full release. Paul, the launch trailer came out yesterday. I hate that I'm gonna play it. I absolutely hate that I'm gonna play it.
Why are you gonna do that to yourself, man?
Telling the story of Sephiroth. They're like literally was like telling the story of John Sephiroth. I was like,
I gotta say, they're just kind of making crap up sometimes. So I don't know if I trust it. I hope it's good.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's September 7th. Rugby 24 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC on September 7th. Fae Farm on Switch and PC on September 8th. That was one of those Farmville-esque games from that State of Play, or
way back,
whatever it's called. Yeah, NBA 2K24 wrapping up this list on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on September 8th. And
NBA
that
took
is
it.
it.
NBA took it 24 now launching with a battle pass because they sure they sure can't stop monetizing that freaking game. I tell you. And why did they keep doing it?
It works because so many people buy that game.
Yeah,
They
and
don't even
spend
touch
so
all the
much-
other stuff. They build their own teams and they play like 3-on-3 for 24/7
Yeah,
in the multiplayer.
and this is why companies will keep just over monetizing some of these games because gamers are stupid. Especially those kinds of gamers are stupid for to give them their money. That's the only way to hit these companies is in the wallet, not through social media campaigns. Remember, boycott Modern Warfare 2 back in 2009. What were all those boycotters doing in Steam when that game launched? They were all playing it. So it's like, words mean nothing. You have to hit them in the wallet. So it's like what happened with Destiny. After like the consternation with the state of the game, the PvP community all quit. All of it. Like the 500,000 weekly PvPers that somehow that game had, even with like such little work that they were putting for PvP, it dropped to like 70,000 after that thing. What did Bungie do? Finally address it. It's like, you gotta hit them in the wallet. And because NBA 2K20, like NBA 2K alone, is like everyone just gives them money willy-nilly, and they make so much, they'll just keep like adding more and more monetization, and it's dumb. So, but that's what happens. I'm glad I don't play those games. So, not my fault. Starfield comes out today, so this is just for people that don't want to pay $35. By the way, $31, people, if you have Game Pass. They're actually even made it cheaper for you to start playing it today. Yeah, you can play it on the 6th. Baldur's Gate 3, Paul, I tell you, I feel like, did it pass us by now? Like, just after a whole month and hearing more? Like,
after everything else, maybe.
Yeah,
but
because
at this point, I'm getting all that I'm really wanting right now.
Yeah, so it's like, I know it's like, Baldur's Gate 3 is the highest rated game of this year. It's the biggest surprise of this year and all that. I feel I had my cert. If I'm gonna get an RPG of something, I'm gonna get my space one. So I'll give it its flowers. Maybe if it goes on sale later this year, maybe. So
yeah, that could be something.
But we can save $70 because we're gonna be playing Starfield anyway. So
yeah.
And that's this week's episode, Paul. We have 45 minutes before Starfield opens. So where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. I think I finally started posting some Armored Core stuff.
Yeah.
Of little funny things going on in that game. Enjoying the heck out of it. Gonna definitely be posting glitches in Starfield. If I can get my Xbox connected to my social media.
It's so easy. Just download the Xbox app and make sure
I might be able to do it now after I feed my animals and before Starfield actually comes out. I'm gonna mess with it and see if I can get
already so amazing. I saw an amazing clip from a guy that works at Kind of Funny that he put, because I follow him on TikTok. He posted it that there was an enemy whose body got stuck in a ship that then suddenly lifted off. And then the body kind of like was stuck there, and then when they hit stratosphere, the body just fell to the planet, and it was like ragdolling. I was like, "Yep, Bethesda's back, baby! I can't wait to see like what funny crap happens." But I just hope I really hope I really love it. I really hoping that it's like because I did love Fallout 4 a lot. I did. So it's happening soon. 44 minutes.
Yep.
So. You can find me at _Dorsegovia on Twitter /X. You can find me at Alejandro Segovia 93 on Threads /Instagram. And you can find both my written content in both seasongaming.com and thecriticalcorner.com. Newer stuff in Season Gaming, older stuff in Critical Corner. So, Paul, it's been a fun. Wake me up when September ends as we play all these games. And everyone, if you're going to play Starfield soon, enjoy. If you've been on Xbox, this has been the big game for you. I hope you enjoy it. Like, touch grass in space. And
press X
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.